Welcome back, everyone. It's been a good forever since we've had any consistent programming, but especially this time. We all got together, or at least not all, but, we were kind of getting together in the real world, and we thought, hey, we could record another thing just all together in a room, and it would be great. But instead, we drank and smoked a ton, and we just got sick. So, you can't win them all. You can't win them all. But Lord, while you guys were starving from content, we were having fun.
Amen.
Yeah, that's how it is,
We went through our user statistics, and it turns out that almost all of our videos are getting recommended only in, right-winger, Trudeau, just hate videos and shit. Not hate videos, but, hate-fueled videos. So we'll see if our uploads of Capital Volume 1 Part 3 slows that down or accelerates it. You never know.
I'm telling you, we need a Rumble account. We need to start posting this to Rumble and getting all the Trumpists just to our.
We should. I bet Rumble would kind of bang, actually.
We're gonna single-handedly start MAGA communism.
Yeah.
We should start like a competitive current in MAGA communism against Has. This actually might be too deep a left-wing internet cut for
I have no idea what you just said.
But we should start like an alternate current against infrared / Has, hijack the MAGA communist movement from him. I think we
or should we just do have our own little side spin where we are the Canadian communist conservatives aside? It doesn't have the same slap as MAGA communism, but who knows? Maybe we could try to get some of that polyethylene communism going.
Yeah, Coco, right? Communist conservatives.
Yeah, we could be the CCP.
What are you talking?
We could be the CCP, the Communist Conservative Party of Canada.
There was a small Nazbol movement that I kept my eyes on in the periphery. It was a group of Canadians who absolutely loved Castro and certain Nazi leaders, but hated Pierre Trudeau with a deep passion.
Yeah. So it's just anti-centrism. That's pretty good. Trey, we could be the CPC as well. We could be the Communist Party of Conservatives.
Dude, or the Conservative Party of Communists.
Both go crazy. Both go crazy. I guess we'll start aiming high with our first articles. So take to the skies, ladies and gentlemen. Or I guess this comes extremely low with the first one, with Air Canada, who has decided to, the disability side of things has been dubious at best. Now, I was looking at the numbers, and overall, they don't seem, terrible. Now, of course, they're doing the whole, if any incidents happen of things going wrong with disability, that's way too much. It's not the worst in history, I'll put it that way. But Air Canada's apologizing, and they say they're making a bunch of changes on how they treat passengers with disabilities because of a bunch of incidents. One involved a passenger with cerebral palsy who had to drag himself off of a landed plane alone to get away from the flight. And in the recommended articles, as I was reading this, I think I did my first read here through the CBC. The two recommended articles were Canada's Chief of Accessibility Officer furious after Air Canada forgets her wheelchair, followed by BC man in wheelchair says he was dropped and injured by Air Canada crew in Vancouver. So if those are the recommended articles that are just algorithmically generated, shit's rough, man. What's going on out there?
So just so I understand properly, they got the Chief Accessibility Officer of Canada, who I didn't, to be honest, I didn't know that was a position.
Yeah.
But they dropped that person, or they messed up with that person?
Yeah, they forgot her wheelchair.
Wow. I mean, it sucks that they did this with any disabled people, but of all disabled people to do this to,
yeah,
that's probably the last.
You think they go hey guys, don't fuck this one up, please, just double check, Also, it is kind of weird because, especially with just, I guess mobility devices and stuff like that, a lot of plane things are just very strange because nothing really accommodates for it. You can tell it's always just an afterthought. And often it's like, oh, okay, if someone's got a disability, they can't go through the airport with their own wheelchair or something. They have to get into the airport's wheelchair and get help with it. Now, on one hand, kind of sucks. On the other hand, if you have some spare money and want to get through airports quick, everybody, please do this. Tips and tricks. Bring someone with a disability with you on your vacation. This is the ultimate win-win situation. You spend a little bit more money on an extra ticket for an extra person, but I think it might even be less because they have a disability. I have to check in on that. But you get first place through the airport, rushed through absolutely everything. And what's the flip side of this? Because you could say, oh, it's kind of demeaning to, use disabled people to get faster lines and stuff like that. But they're getting a whole ass vacation out of it.
Interesting strategy. The thing with how do they do wheelchairs on airplanes? That's what I want to know. Because airplanes are pretty cramped, and that's for a reason. Where do they put the wheelchair when they're on the airplane?
I think it generally just gets sent over to cargo.
Okay.
But since cargo is one of the what I figure they could do is make it so that cargo for the wheelchairs happens last. So it's one of the last things in and one of the first things out. And then they could do that during the waiting for the flight, just in that kind of last seating area. But instead it often means that the wheelchair is the first thing to go when you arrive at an airport. Because it gets sent away with all the bags and such. And then as things get lost, so does your ability to move. And do you guys remember, was that just one major incident, or was that just a constant thing that was happening post-COVID, where just everyone's bags were getting lost?
Oh, that was constant. That was it was very, very regular that companies were losing bags, or airports were losing bags. Someone was losing bags.
Yeah. The amount of air tags and shit that were on bags, and everyone to say, Air Canada's lost my bag, but I know exactly where it is, but they can't find it still. I was enjoying those articles.
I think it's probably something to do with this started post-COVID, right? The epidemic of bag losing. I think it was because of the labor reshaking up post-COVID, where airport employees probably all left because the tourism industry collapsed. And then they couldn't get them back because employers were unwilling to pay the actual wages required to rehire everyone, because they were expecting the pre-COVID buyer's market for the labor power market to still be in place. Mm-hmm. And as we saw, all these employers just obstinately held out, allowed service to collapse instead of rehiring people until the labor market returned to normal, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think it was that, as well as a combination of the fact that travel blew up after, that's wrong use of terms. Travel was much more than regular after COVID because everyone just didn't travel for 2 years. So there was way more people.
That's probably also true.
Traveling. So even
it's probably because they were all so rich with their Trudeau bucks.
Trudeau bucks also not spending.
I think it's probably a mix of both. People not having spent their travel money now spending it, plus the fact that there were fewer airport employees, meaning that the issue compounds, where even if they had retained this exact same number of employees, they would still have fewer employees per passenger. But it's just instead of having one employee for every 10 passengers, it's now one employee for every 50 or 100 or something.
Well, as much as I just saying these following words, but in defense of the airline companies, their own revenues were completely destroyed after during COVID. I know the Canadian government had to bail out Air Canada or something like that. They spent a lot of money on Air Canada because it got so expensive, and they lost so much money throughout those years.
I would be sympathetic to airlines in another country, but in Canada, which famously has an oligopoly on airlines, in every other industry, with massively jacked up prices for no reason. Frankly, I'm unsympathetic to Air Canada and WestJet. I guess you should have saved up for this eventuality,
Yeah. I feel like in Canada, we definitely have one of those things where it's the airlines are clearly just siphoning off of government money. Like, they have their thin margins and stuff like that, but they're getting just bailed out for all of their profits every single year. Like, every single year they're like, oh, if we want to stay afloat, we need that government money. And the government's like, you know what, let's do it.
I don't want to say too much against this, though, because as of 2021, for the first time since 1989, the Canadian government now owns a part of Air Canada.
Hell yeah.
So, we own a part of Air Canada.
We're so back. We're so back.
The best part about seizing Air Canada would be that you don't even have to change its name or anything. It already makes sense intuitively as a government-owned business.
Yeah, I mean, it was founded as one. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Wait,
it was privatized. It used to be nationalized.
My apologies. Never mind. Air Canada did get supported by the Canadian government. They were going to buy shares. Then at the last minute, Air Canada pulled out.
Oh my god, bros.
So did they get the money anyways?
Air Canada's pulling out from the federal government's $5 billion aid program. Of the total aid available, 3.9 was not used.
So they
got a free $1 billion from the government.
Yeah.
I don't know if how much was owned, but like if the Canadian government got to own part of it. But yeah.
All right. So running back to the article, it says Toronto's Alessia Di Virgilio, maybe that's the name. Look, white boy, who uses a power wheelchair, had her ventilator disconnected and a lift fall on her head as Air Canada staff struggled to transfer her between the aircraft and the wheelchair. That's about as bad as it gets. Now, it says over 2,000 people who require mobility assistance travel with the airline every day, and it has received 975 complaints about accessibility since 2018. So about 200 a year, about one every other day. Now, one every other day, far from ideal, but, it's not like, it's not terrible compared to other airlines that I've had experiences with, or my family at least, is Porter. And Porter just does not do anything. And if you try to complain, they just don't pick up the phone. And if someone eventually does pick up the phone, they just say, just go straight to the government, buddy. We're not doing anything about it. So Air Canada, in general, if you have a disability or something, I think is still one of the best bets for Canadian travel. But there's more thing of good travel. Bennett, what happened in Alaska?
It actually happened in the continental U.S., but it was Alaska Airlines.
Oh.
In Alaska, 737 MAX 9 took off from, I think it was Seattle. Let me check. No, it was in Oregon, so it's Portland Airport. Yeah, so it takes off from Portland, begins the flight, immediate explosive decompression. One of the side doors pops off, and
like World War Z.
Yeah, sort of, except not quite as spectacular because they were still pretty low, like they had just taken off.
Okay.
So the door flies off. There's a pretty funny video you can watch of the plane just still flying with the door having flown off, and the guy who's sitting in the aisle with the door is just still sitting there calmly. The flight only lasted 10 minutes. They had to immediately circle back and land again. So the FAA has released a grounding order for all 737 MAX 9s in the United States, of which there are like 140 something. So they're all grounded, and they have to undergo a safety inspection. First of all, the 737 is kind of like a really shitty aircraft, so it's not surprising that it happened to this specific model. But also, there seems to be an issue with the airline themselves that may have caused this. So Alaska Airlines is kind of like a regional budget airline that services flights in and out of Alaska for obvious reasons. So Alaska Airlines immediately issued a statement saying that their mechanics knew the door was loose before it took off, but cleared it anyways. Now, the airline themselves, though, deny that their corporate structure is at fault, but the airline flight recorder was wiped. It's like there's no audio from the cockpit. And so technically this could have happened accidentally because it's an old black box that could overwrite itself. But, Yeah, not looking good for Alaska Airlines, and the NTSB is not happy.
I thought 737s, unless I just confuse my numbers because I'm more of a trains guy than a plane guy, I thought they were at least like all reliable.
No. They're not very good. You might be thinking of like a 777 or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you look up 737 on Wikipedia, their problems tab, I think it's called, is quite long. Like, there's been quite a few issues with that.
No, the 777 is like Boeing's pretty dependable plane. 737, infamously shitty plane. And exactly the type of plane that would be purchased by a regional airline and allowed to explode in midair.
Yeah, I thought airlines were just super stringent with all of their shit. I'm shocked, like, generally they're searching for, like, a single fucking scratch will ground a plane for a day, but these guys are just like, the door's probably not gonna fall off, so, send it, bud.
Yeah, it was a plug door, too, which are, like, especially not great.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. So first of all, do you guys know what a plug door is on an airplane?
No.
So when you're on a plane, right, and like you look at the safety manual, it'll be like the exits are at the front and the back, right?
Yeah.
And if you're on a big enough plane with enough passengers, there's also exits in the middle. So all these planes come with these exits in the middle, just in case airlines want to use them for these high traffic routes. But if they aren't using them, the airlines can replace the expensive emergency doors with plugs, these plug doors, which just sit where the door would be and are just like a wall that can't be opened, basically.
Yeah.
So plugs are less dependable than the safety doors, in no small part because they don't need to be interacted with normally. So there's a lot less regulations around them. And they're also cheaper, which is why airlines will always use plug doors if they can get away with it. So
classic.
Maybe we'll see the end of plug doors, maybe not. But yeah, looks like Alaska Airlines cut too many corners here and are now in deep shit.
Honestly, Spencer, I had the opposite reaction to you. I was like, this is now it's happening. Like,
yeah,
the amount of airplanes going around, the amount of issues that anything mechanical could occur or could happen. We don't see a lot of issues with airplanes, generally speaking.
Yeah. I mean, they are one of the safer modes of travel.
Right, because every time there is an issue, we fix it, right? It's one of the few transit types where they immediately fix problems when they arise.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting them get shittier and shittier.
I guess that is one of the nice things about, nice, I'll put in air quotes, things about air transportation is that when something does go wrong, it's very spectacular, so it can't ever really get kind of brushed under the rug. That like, you can't do that. People are already kind of scared of air travel. It's widely, I think, in the human psyche as something that's a little spooky. So I think just like, one, they cannot have people be any more scared of things, and two, everyone will immediately pay attention to it, and all eyes are on it. The second there's a failure, everyone's like, how did we let this happen?
I guess because planes are just inherently scarier than most forms of transit, there's also just a general public desire for them to be safe.
Yeah.
Like, trains have spectacular accidents, but the East Palestine thing, did that even lead to any major refactoring of how trains are run in the United States, like a plane accident would?
I'd have to double check that, actually. But yeah, one of the things about, especially even trains like that, is it's all background stuff. It's something that kind of happened over there, I guess, for us. And everyone's just like, oh, dude, it's kind of a systems failure. Now, sure, it was pretty terrible for all of the people that were there, which is why it actually did gain a bunch of popularity. But, I guess they did also inevitably hit the immediate stumbling block of, if we actually forced companies to invest in rail infrastructure, or, like, made it so that rails were government owned, this would not be a problem. And they were like, that would dig into profits, immediate shutdown.
Well, I think there's also a big level of competition with planes, which isn't the same with trains, which are pretty, like, if you want to go by train, you don't have a choice. There's only one real route you could take, right?
Yeah.
With planes, you can go, there's so many different potential possibilities that you can take, different routes, different airlines, different companies, that if there is a failure from one part, you have another choice, which incentivizes companies to reduce failure from their part.
Yeah.
Like Alaska Airlines, unfairly or not, is going to be hit hard by this story.
Will they?
I was going to get into Alaska Airlines. Not only did they wipe the recording and let the plane fly with a loose plug door, they also let the plane fly after it was restricted from flying over water because the auto pressurization light was like the auto pressurization fail light just started lighting up randomly in the plane during previous flights. So, which probably means that like the door was loose enough to like trigger the system where it's like, oh, there's a cabin pressure drop unexpectedly happening. Mm-hmm. And they just did nothing about this. They just let it keep flying with this repeated pressurization alert.
They were just flying a dumpster up there. Yeah. Holy moly.
The fail light came on. Sorry, this is a quote from CNN. The fail light came on December 7th and on January 3rd and 4th, the days leading up to the blowout, she said. Each time, the flight crew flipped a switch to the system's backup, Homendy said, describing the move as, quote, very normal.
Well, you know, at least that plane, with all of its technical difficulties, it made it to the sky. There is a plane that didn't make it to the sky. For the second time in 4 months, ladies and gentlemen, Trudeau's plane. Either this guy is very unlucky or, you know, the planes are rebelling against him.
Or a mechanic.
The plane was, what was it? Was it the Challenger? Yep. Was that the name of the plane? Come on, guys. Stop. Can we not name aircraft the Challenger these days?
I feel like that's a cursed name now.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got what you're saying. There's a lot of controversy online. I mean, this is not a good look, but about the fact that Prime Minister Trudeau takes vacations in Jamaica has been going over a lot of rounds on how horrible that is. And I don't know, it feels kind of wrong to hate on a guy for going on vacation, just in general.
Yeah, can't really hate him for that.
This is one thing that I never really got. Every single politician, as they're doing their thing, the opponent's always like, oh, this guy spends so much time on vacation. And they spend just a completely average amount of time on vacation. And then the next guy goes up and proceeds to spend the exact same amount of time and money on vacation. Because, like, they have a job and they go on vacation. This is normal. This is normal.
Well, there's this
the other thing is... Okay, sorry. Before you go, Shrey, I was going to say... an addendum to what Spencer said. The other thing is that since basically the start of the Cold War, like the government bureaucracy and for lack of a better term, the deep state has become so sophisticated and entrenched that chief executives don't actually need to do anything. Like the apex of American power was arguably in like the 50s or 60s before the end of the Cold War. Mm-hmm. And Eisenhower famously did nothing. Like he was always golfing and shit. Because at this point, the state runs itself. The Trudeau and Biden are just figureheads. I think Biden should clue people into that because he is mentally not. He's like he's already gone to heaven.
Yeah, this guy.
Left his body. But like,
this guy clearly can't like make any real decisions. You know,
and yet the American state trudges on.
Yeah,
because they don't need to do anything.
I think that's we have Milei who just got elected as well, and he was all like, oh dude, I'm an ANCAP, everything's gonna be the market, and then he makes it and guess what, fucking nothing changes. I mean, I guess the inflation rate went from like what was it, like 160%
to like 3,000%.
Yeah, now it's up to like 3,000. So clearly things did change, but it's like, oh, you have your like left liberal kind of guys that go up and then they just become a neoliberal. You have your conservatives that go up and just become a neoliberal. You have your ANCAPs that go up and then somehow they just become a neoliberal. It's like they're just in the machine, and you can have a couple different tweaks here and there. But whether you're a conservative or a liberal, you're going to say, oh, we need an economics decision. And you're going to send it over to the fucking economics store. And the economics store is going to spit out what the economics numbers should do. And you just do that. It's going to be the same people pretty much.
I want to take the opposite point on this. Where I think it's I think you're right. In the 50s and 60s, it got to the point where the government wasn't doing anything. It didn't need to be anything. At least the figurehead didn't. Louis Saint Laurent was a famous example of that, where he spent like his latter years as prime minister just traveling the world, while his second in command did everything. CD Howe.
Awesome.
But I feel like that's changed now. Where back then, when everything was so decentralized in governance, where all the the local representatives, the MPs, the House of Congress, whatever, they actually mattered a lot because they were not only communicating from the ground to the capital, but they're also the communicators from the capital to the ground, wherever that may be.
Yeah.
But now, as we've decentralized our communications, leadership has centralized significantly, where your MP, your MPP, for our American fans, your congressman, whatever, doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah.
But the president, the prime minister, you hear everything they do and everything they say, you will get told right away through various...
My point is none of that they say or do matters. Like, my point is not that in the 50s, Congress was doing everything. Actually, my point is that none of the elected officials in the United States were doing anything that mattered. Like, who was running the American government was the various American government bureaucrats, like the unelected officials. Democracy is pushed out, and the government just starts to run itself as just a machine with no outside input, except for who it hires.
That's what everyone...
Yeah, but the point is that it's like, it doesn't matter what Trudeau does. It also does not matter what MPs do. The Canadians, like, it might matter for individual issues, like micro issues or whatever, but it does not matter for the general direction the state is going in. You're not going to vote your way out of neoliberalism in a meaningful way.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
It's going to happen organically. It will be grown out of it, whatever you vote for, really. The next thing will grow from.
Trudeau could be in his office issuing statements every single day, or Trudeau could be on vacation every day. It would make no difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're like 90% of what the government does is handled by the bureaucracy, as it should. As a well-running organization should be able to. It shouldn't be reliant on one person. I think the prime ministers and the president do have a role to say, but if they go on vacation for 10, 20, 30 days even, it's not going to change anything, fundamentally.
Yeah, which is why I think it's silly people complain about it. It's like, Trudeau doesn't need to do anything. The state will run itself.
Yeah. Like, I think it was Spain who didn't have a government for 1 year.
Yeah, or Belgium, which also did not have a government for 1 year.
And as far as I know, their people are doing fine.
Yeah, and it's not that it's like, oh, this is like an anarchist take, like, oh, they did fine without a government. They had no elected government. The Belgian and Spanish bureaucracies continued trudging along.
Yeah. General change and general over long-term change matters by these things, but it's not going to happen within 1 day anyways.
Yeah. I also think, like you were saying, how people hold, like, they're no longer into municipal stuff, but they're into, like, the prime minister and the president. I think that is, as Bennett would say, because the vibes are totally there, to have, like, one all-powerful leader, like, that shit's cool. Especially whenever you look to municipal leaders, 90% of the time, they're just, like, bureaucratic ghouls, you know? Everything is just bad. It's like municipal politics at the pace it moves already feels like it is only half alive most of the time. Now, there is almost always exciting shit happening. But then you'll hear like an announcement and it's like, oh, okay, we're going to build a new subway within the next 50 years.
But you can argue that that it's a feedback loop. Partially the reason why it sucks so much is because no one pays attention.
I'd be in there.
I think it even goes beyond that. Like, I think regular people want the government to do stuff.
Yeah.
They want Trudeau Trudeau legalized weed, which is something that he did, right? But they want him to do other stuff too, right? But I think there's sort of this learned helplessness with Western politicians post 1970, where like at the tail end of the Keynesian era, I think they realized that like, oh, the state is running itself, like the CIA is really in charge of the US or whatever, right? And they just kind of like give up trying. where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's nothing I can do. There's I think like they just get into power, they do maybe one or two things, and then they spend the rest of their time just blowing hot air out of their mouths.
It is weird to see what people think the prime minister does. Where I found like a lot of people think the prime minister can just like wave his hand and things can happen, but they can't. There's very little they can do without, which isn't like a long-term 10, 20, 30-year change.
But also, like, constitutionally, they probably could do it. But they know that, like, if they even tried, the actual government will stop them.
And I also think, like, that is a part of why people like the federal politics so much more, is you get into municipal politics, and there's some stuff that they're doing, but that's all, like, boring, long reading. But then the only exciting parts are all, like, it's just when they try to offload shit to the province. And then when the province goes up, they're just trying to offload shit to the federal government. So people look at the federal government, they're like, all right, can we just do that? Can you just, like, wave your hand and start making shit actually happen, please? Because the whole process seems so slow. We don't have China where you could just build 1 trillion, like, kilometers of railways with a snap of a finger. Like, we try to make one railway, and it's half a decade overdue, and there's no date that is supposed to open as far as I know, though I haven't checked in a few weeks. But yeah, it seems like at the federal point, that's the only time where someone might actually be able to make a decision that will trail its way down, if that makes sense.
Spenny, I just checked. There is no due date for Eglinton Crosstown yet.
Fuck my life.
Yeah, sorry.
Look.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, back when the government actually did do stuff, that's like all infrastructure basically dates back to that point.
Yeah.
Where after like 1972 or whatever, new infrastructure gets built at like a pace 1/100th the speed. Like the Anglican Crosstown probably would have taken Canada 2 weeks in the 1950s or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
You know?
There are examples where it's succeeded. like it's all PPPs now, right? For those who don't know, it's public-private partnerships.
Yeah.
I know there's examples where it worked, like the Vancouver SkyTrain. I mean, I know, Spenny, you tried it. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was through a PPP. But there's such horrible failures like the Eglinton Crosstown or the Ottawa, the OC Transpo is another big famous one.
Mm-hmm. It just adds extra layers to everything. And now, like, what people think of the government as a place you go to get trained to enter the expert workforce of private industry.
Yeah.
But that's like a made-up thing. The government could also have trained industry. It's just we decided we don't do that anymore. I could fucking probably move to China and into some town that has 200 people and have high-speed rail done by the time the Eglinton Crosstown gets finished.
Yeah.
I might
agree.
do that.
I don't know if there are towns.
I mean, you'll arrive in China and you'll find that arrive in China. There's also the population is probably closer to 200 million than 200.
I missed about half of that through packet loss, but you know,
we got there.
give me a ghost city, please.
The other point I wanted to bring about the vacation was, I believe it was the 90s when it happened. I think it was President Bill Clinton who famously, what he used to do to go on vacation, unlike Prime Minister Trudeau, which, to be fair, is not a Trudeau thing. It's a very Canadian thing to do, is go somewhere warm for vacation. What President Clinton used to do is he would look where his polls were the lowest and go vacation there in the U.S., specifically to boost his poll numbers.
That's pretty good. Oh, Bennett's having a tough time. Did it work well?
The polls? Well, he won 2 terms. Even with the entire scandal and everything, is pretty popular.
But then what would happen if it's like, oh, where am I going for vacation? You look at the map, it's like fucking Wyoming.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. Like, you had to go skiing somewhere random. You know, he didn't like skiing at all.
Yeah.
Just because he was polling low there.
Just to see the locals.
Yeah. Like, oh my god, the president's coming here. We gotta vote for him now.
Yeah, meet some of the women. Love Bill.
I don't know if it's women he was meeting, given the new updates, but...
Wait, is he fucking Trudeau?
No, younger.
Ooh. Oh, right, yes. Oh my god, we don't have Epstein in this episode.
Well, I thought it was too conspiracy for the economic podcast of ours.
I don't think so. No, we'll get Epstein in the next episode. That shit's right up our fucking alley.
Like it's, I don't know if in a communist world if there'd be that much of a difference. I think there'd be a red.
Do not look at what the French people sign. Just not worth it. All right. Well, maybe Ben is back, maybe not, but either way,
I'm back.
We'll power on over to the world of moose. So this is one I got out of.
We're starting a new segment today. It's called Moose News.
Yeah.
And Spencer, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a couple articles here. One, stop letting the meese lick your car. This is out of BC and Alberta, and Parks Canada is saying that don't stop to let the meese lick your car. Meese wander onto the highways to meese wander onto the highway to go up to cars because the cars are covered in salt from salting roads and sidewalks, shit like that, wherever you're driving these days. And so they like that salt. And it will either like fall off your car onto the road, so sometimes they'll lick the pavement, but the car is that sweet spot. That's where it really kicks. It's dried up, it's nice and crispy, it's got that crunch on it, you know? Yeah. And toasty salt too. It's like some salt and vinegar chips for them. But yeah, unfortunately, what are moose at the end of the day? Large objects that are very good at blending into the forests, especially at night. So as more meese congregate to the roads, it puts not only you in danger, but those things are freaking or not only the moose in danger, but they're freaking huge. It puts you in a lot of danger. So slow down, drive past the moose, and, you know, you can observe a little bit. They are beautiful creatures. Just try not to let them lick your car. They said that a whole 4 moose are killed like this every year in Alberta's Jasper National Park. So, watch out, guys. Watch out.
I'll keep that in mind when I visit Park Omega. Shout out Park Omega.
If a moose does start licking your car, what can you do to stop them from licking your car?
Right. So one thing,
moose will total your car if you try to like hit it or something.
Yeah. So okay, one thing you can do, especially if there's a baby moose that's trying to lick salt off your car, is you can kidnap it. Actually, which brings us to our second article, guys. Don't kidnap baby moose. I don't know why this has to be stated. I thought the rules were clear. Don't go into wildlife reservations and start kidnapping animals, especially baby moose, because those things are pretty dangerous. And this is from July 14th, with the opening quote, "Her and I kind of bonded on the ride home. I mean, shucks, we had like 5.5 hours in the pickup truck together. This wasn't even like, you let the moose stop in your car and drove a little bit. This is an abduction."
Yeah, that's like a leisurely drive from Ottawa to Toronto with like an en route stop in the car.
Yeah, this is like a snack break and everything.
Yeah.
And it says
cute.
Yeah, it does. Oh, it looks very happy.
Show the folks at home that picture when you upload this.
I will.
The moose looks chill. The moose looks like it's having a good time. What's the big deal?
Says the moose hopped into the car all willy-nilly. Now, guys, imagine another situation, right? You're working and you are the boss of this petroleum company. And petroleum companies frequently in the news on blast for climate change and just ruining nature stuff. Whatever fucking explosion has happened recently, you're just either directly involved with or going to be catching strays anyway. But you've worked really hard to make sure that your name is crystal clear in this petroleum industry and you have no drama related to nature. And one day, you wake up, you do your morning stretches, you're eating breakfast, and you get a phone call saying, "Oh, all that work? Out the window. One of your workers is abducting moose in a wildlife reserve." Like, what's going through your mind at that? So, there you go. So why did this guy abduct the moose? He says that there was a bear, and the moose hopped into his car, and he helped the moose escape the bear. I wonder how that took 5.5 hours, but I digress.
So do we thank the company for firing this man?
You know what? Maybe. I think, yeah, guys, shout out AFD Petroleum. There's some real ones. There's some real ones. Get all your best petroleum from them.
I'm not sure that.
Please sponsor us, by the way.
I think the reason they haven't had. I'm sure the reason they haven't had any environmental controversies is because they're just like a trucking company. They've got like probably a couple dozen employees.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine there's not too much happening there. Anyways, it says several days later, the calf was taken to a wildlife rehabilitation center. So we're now up from 5.5 hours to several days. Skage said, often the right call in situations like this is to let nature run its course. But in this case, he made the judgment call to help the calf, and he felt it was the right one, especially given that he later found out the calf was a female.
Oh, no.
Christ. How's this guy simping for fucking meese?
Baby
mooses.
The mooses out there. That's fucked up, man. Like, you're not getting any mussy or anything. Just get it out of your head. Come on, man. It's an underage moose anyways. Yeah, maybe you'd have to get it on a plane instead of his truck if he was trying for something. Anyways, the company did some investigation. They found some cameras, said there didn't seem to be any bears around. This was likely just an abduction, and he did not appear to look for the calf's mother, so the mother may have been there and just watched her kid get abducted into this truck. So yeah, don't do this, but more importantly than don't do this, anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you do this, just, drive around a bit and then come back and drop the moose off. Don't get caught. Take some pictures, keep it to yourself. It would be extremely fun and very funny. Absolute blast, I'm sure. But, don't lose your job over it. Enjoy the moose time, and from there, check out.
Let's move on to CEO of housing price increases.
Oh, fuck, yeah. Yeah, guys, we got a call from the CEO of housing prices. And we got news. They're going up, baby. They're going up. Core Development Group, which announced 2 years ago it intended to scoop up $1 billion in single-family homes, is converting them into rentals and plans to add another 10,000 homes to their portfolio over the next 5 years. So this isn't just like the GTA, this is kind of surrounding cities and all of that. So all the places that haven't been hit hard enough with the housing crisis. They're up on the chopping block. And it says in a very hopeful way that they plan on using the money that comes in from this investment to build more homes on top of this. But they don't make any claims for how many homes are actually going to be built. Now, this comes alongside news that the U.S. is banning corporate ownership of homes, which we should do too. So I guess they're just moving up here.
No, the U.S. is not doing banning corporate. They proposed it. There's a good chance it's going to get shut down.
Yeah, I don't see that passing. Yeah, that's not passing. For sure.
But, maybe we will get a quick boost in home prices while that bill is going through. Since it's market unfriendly, this will help our investment,
$1 billion of housing, eh?
$1 billion.
Yeah, this almost sounds like a supervillain threat more so than a real thing that is happening.
Yeah.
Well, it's 10,000 homes. If I remember correctly, one of the stories from this article was how all these families were calling him, asking the company to buy their houses because they couldn't afford it, the mortgages anymore, and then renting it back to them.
Oh yeah. No, that one's almost comical. He gets a call almost once a week from people being forced to sell their homes because they can't keep up with mortgage payments, and they can't find rentals in the same. So yeah, they're just begging for him to rent their own homes back to them, which is the saddest shit I've ever heard.
Especially when when asked how many of the houses they're building is just gonna be for rental only, he couldn't give an answer.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's literally just like, hey, you want your housing prices up? You want to own less? Actually, he said he understands the frustration of critics, but he sees this as a model of providing more options for renters. Now, let it be known that if you take one step out, it provides more houses technically as an option to rent, but doesn't provide them the option to not rent. So in providing them more options, it removes the bigger option available. Yeah, renters probably want the option to buy.
Yeah, that's actually, like, often very unimaginative landlord defenders will be like, well, if there's no landlords, where will the housing be? I'm like, where it is now. You know?
Yeah. The people that live there now and are renting it out would be in the exact same place. They would just own it.
Yeah.
And yeah, building new supply, he says, is very difficult because of labor costs and shortages, taxes, and regulations. So it doesn't sound like he's planning on building anything. He just started dropping excuses for not building anything right after saying he's hopeful to build something. And also blaming taxes and regulations, which is an all-time classic for capitalists. Now, he also has a scheme to create tenant owners by giving them back a portion of their rent through shares in their own real estate investment trust, so that renters can build equity in a portfolio of homes that they own.
That's
which
a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. It's like you can get equity only insofar as it creates more profits for the people that actually own the house. And you only exist on their profitable terms.
And the only way for them to get profit from their shares in their REITs, their real estate investments, whatever it's called, REITs,
yeah,
is if more people are renting from this company.
Yeah.
So they will have to go out and tell other people to rent with this company.
Mm-hmm.
Thereby giving them back more money. It's just it sounds like a pyramid scheme.
So instead of getting real equity, i.e., owning your house, you know, getting something real out of it, you're now renting and boosting someone else's shit effectively. Stocks are not real, like they are a kind of ownership, but they're not real ownership like owning a house, and they never will be. It's just a paper thing that we need for markets or whatever. And I also like that he says it's like, you know, everyone always says, oh, renting is cheaper or whatever, but in recent years, that's just not true. Like, yes, you don't need a down payment, so that is one thing. But if renting was, like, if it wasn't profitable, if it didn't bring in more money than the payments, people would not buy up houses to rent. The fact that they buy up houses to rent means that they make more money through rent than they pay off for the house. The guy looks like he's trying to be a young trillionaire, grind setter kind of guy. The look of him is just ugly, but even better, the people next to him leading this, the girl looks kind of AI generated. She looks like a bit of a robot. Her eyes just look photoshopped a bit. I don't know what it is about them. They probably are. But it kind of scared me, I'm not going to lie. Looking at it.
Do we know how long before they buy up all their houses?
I guess we just have to wait and see, you know. They said 10,000 more houses in the next 5 years. And a couple of years ago they had like $1 billion. Now $1 billion isn't going to get you 10,000 houses. So either they're doing that to pump up their investment coming in from other people, throwing out bigger numbers or whatever, or they are putting even more money into this than the mere $1 billion they started with.
$1 billion, though, if it's a GTA real estate investor, they're buying like 4 or 5 houses, maybe.
Yeah, $250 million houses.
100 square feet shacks in downtown Toronto.
Yeah, you could buy like 5 Vancouver parking lots for that much.
Yeah.
You know, at least someone is coming in with some new ideas for building houses. Everybody, Doug Ford wants you to buy gingerbread houses. We're late on this. We didn't do shit over Christmas. We just drank and smoked. And you know what isn't smoking? The chimney in a gingerbread house, unlike the chimney of a real house. Or us. And the best thing about this was 2 years ago, some guy called My Name's Not Gordy, so I'm going to assume there's a chance his name is Gordy, said waiting for Doug Ford to tweet a folksy Christmas video of him building a gingerbread house and then counting it as another home built by his government.
And then he did do that.
I watched the video of him building a gingerbread house, and he wasn't good at it.
I'm not surprised, honestly.
For a man of his size, if I'm being evil here, I figured, you could be good at building a gingerbread house. He might outcompete me. I generally try to be good, but I'm not a creative, You
don't understand. For building a gingerbread house, if you're a fat person, or even in general, requires a certain degree of self-control, where you don't just eat the components before the house is complete.
Yeah. I'm legally, I guess technically, medically on paper, obese, and as I build gingerbread houses, I start gnawing. I try to do it in somewhat artsy ways, where you know how the shingles have their little loops. I'll try to gnaw it till the point that is the outside line, instead of it being a square just with lines on top of it. Dougie just followed those lines with the icing, and it was just white. Well,
here's the thing: he's a hefty guy. He probably has never actually completed a gingerbread house without just eating it halfway through. So he has no experience building one, which is probably why his gingerbread house sucks in the video.
My favorite part of gingerbread houses is putting the little gummies and candies on it. That extra spice, the texture to it. That gives it more than just the single dimension of the bread and icing, which is still good, but it doesn't have that mix. He did not do that. I
personally find his folksy videos adorable. Each one of them. He's done quite a few of them now, eh? He did the infamous Premier's cheesecake a couple of years ago, which was just 6 cans of whipped cream or whatever. There was the jack-o'-lantern he made. Mm-hmm. And now this one.
Mm-hmm.
I find it adorable. I wonder if it actually does impact his polling numbers, but I know he's got this entire thing of rich uncle who's kind of politically incorrect, but means well kind of persona going around with him.
Yeah.
And it seems to work really, really well for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's the most spicy, bland persona you can really do these days.
Yeah.
It's the means well kind of neuters any real criticism of it, but everyone wants kind of a little edge because everything is already so watered down.
Yeah.
This one, I did say it almost felt at sometimes like he was mocking people, saying this is actually harder to build than a modular home, which is kind of funny. He said the gingerbread is like lumber, which I got a kick out of that one. I wrote he's shit at making it. And then he says we left out milk and cookies at night. So exciting. But it didn't feel like it really was exciting, He didn't make me excited when he was saying so exciting. And then giving the gingerbread family a home. I thought that was kind of good. It was kind of like a "this could be you" kind of thing. Though you did say this does kind of reflect the 2-year target of 1.5 million homes being at 60,000. Only gingerbread families are getting houses right now. I do want to know if he received any anonymous bundles of cash before putting this video out by Big Gingerbread House.
Well, what he probably did is he probably has a friend who's in the gingerbread business, and he's like, Doug, I need some of that corruption money. So Doug Ford probably paid him about $250 million for one gingerbread kit.
Yeah.
And then filmed it on camera so that he could write it off somehow.
Yeah, it replaced Trudeau's vacation money, which he did for free. That all of those funds were diverted into the gingerbread business. But this did kind of remind me of that one time where he talked about the Tim Hortons sandwiches that now have real eggs.
Yeah.
That one was crazy. That one had to be sponsored. I refuse to believe
I had to
it
say,
was.
listen, we're not sponsored by Tim Hortons, but Tim Hortons tastes so good when someone isn't whispering in your ear that it sucks, all right? My honest take is that since... Listen, I understand hating on Tim Hortons before they brought back real eggs, but since bringing back real eggs,
Yeah.
the food's kind of good now. Plus, cilantro lime chicken wrap, seal of approval. All right,
Goes crazy. I've actually been doing that crispy barbecue chicken one,
haven't
which
tried
is
it.
kind
but
of
I'm
it's
sure
kind of odd, but it's just oddball enough for me to be like, you know what, something different today. Anyways,
Yeah, you
Timmy's,
know,
please sponsor us.
Don't crucify me for it, but Tim Hortons, my contrarian take is that it's actually good.
Yeah, please sponsor us. We know you're listening.
Yeah.
And I guess in our last mini story that I have written down here, you guys see the world's best leap at the judge?
Oh yeah. Did you see the lead up to the video?
No, I haven't.
Like, okay, so for those who are, I'm sure anyone who's been online in the past couple of weeks has seen the video of a guy leaping at a judge during his sentencing. So what was happening was this guy had been convicted of some crime. He had a lengthy criminal history, and he's like doing a speech before his sentencing, and he's talking about, I'm reformed. I used to be a criminal, but I don't do crimes anymore except for this one thing. I'm trying to live a better life. Don't put me in prison so that I can like continue building my life back up, which is like, it's fine speech or whatever, and at least you're even agreeable. And the judge is like, well, in light of your extremely lengthy criminal history and this recent infraction, which makes me believe that you haven't changed, I have no choice. And then he just goes like, oh, hell nah, bitch. And then he like sprints towards the bench, leaps over it, and tackles her.
Yeah. As he was going over, I gotta say, didn't even bump his knee on it. Like, this guy
he jumps like 10 feet in the air.
Yeah. I watched this, and the first thing I thought was that this has to be one of the best jumps I've ever witnessed. It is like the platonic ideal of a dive tackle. I've never seen better. His knee did not bump the desk, goes straight in, hits the target. 19 months to 4 years for attempted battery, but whatever, And I gotta say, what was it? So his name was Redden and Holthus, which was that a judge? The marshal received a gash to his head, which was 25 stitches. Pretty wild punch, too. So Redden told the corrections officers that he had a bad day and tried to kill her. So, gotta say, in terms of showing that he was reformed, maybe not. Maybe the judge brought him on that one.
I feel like this is quite possibly the worst possible thing he could have done is attack the judge. Right after going on this long speech about how he's no longer a violent person.
Yeah. Though, I don't know, I don't remember, was the initial sentence the 19 months to 4 years, or was that just for the battery of the judge?
I don't remember, but
I figured, when I first
story.
saw this, I figured he just landed like 20 years and just had like nothing to lose.
No, it wasn't even that much that he was being sentenced for.
Yeah. So... at least he...
Do you think we can give him a scholarship to get him out of there for that jump?
A scholarship?
Oh, I think the prison, basketball team probably could use him.
That's true.
Look, they deserve some good hoopers, too.
Yeah. They used to have prison teams that would play against real teams. I think that might be rehabilitative. They should bring that back.
That's actually a really good idea. I like that.
They used to have baseball teams that would play from prisons, just made up of the inmate population. Unfortunately, pro athletes have gotten so good that athletic normal people can no longer compete with them.
Yeah,
but maybe we could have put them in the minors or something.
Yeah.
Do you guys see the new Toronto team?
What?
Did you guys see a new Toronto team? Sorry, this is a full aside, but Toronto's got a new hockey team, which is really exciting.
A new
no
minor
way.
league hockey team?
The Professionals Women Hockey League. Have you guys been
Oh,
following it?
yeah.
Not like another men's hockey team. Which
No,
is
no,
like-
no.
I was just like, we can't afford to lose 2 of these, you know?
Well, Toronto did lose their first game,
Mhm.
but we're back in the women's league.
Yeah. No, I think overall, I think that's good. I historically do not love hockey that much, but interestingly enough, I did rather enjoy watching women's hockey. And I don't know what it was about it. It was just like a little more positional, which I found more interesting for me. And I don't play hockey, so I'm not super into it, but I just got a little bit more of a kick out of it from a technical aspect.
Well, women's hockey's had a really weird history here, where until the Canadian Women's Hockey League, which was there for like a couple years ago, used to pay their athletes negative dollars, where the athletes had to pay to be as part of the league, and that was the closest that we had to a professional hockey league for women.
Mm-hmm.
The last one, I think, was called the PHF. The minimum salaries were $10,000 a year.
Yep.
This one is a little more better, where the minimum salary is $30,000 a year for all their professional hockey players. It's cool to see that hockey's finally getting to a place where they can actually pay their women athletes.
Yeah.
Versus before it was negative. I tried buying a hockey ticket, but they're all sold out already, and it cost me $350 to see one.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's insane. No,
Yeah,
I maintain that athletes should not make a ridiculous amount of money.
Really?
Yeah. And it's because it should just, like, a lot of sport should just be for love of the game, you know? And I think we're so hyper optimized in athletics right now that I think athletes needing to have a job would help rein things in a little bit, make it a little more kind of human. You know, everyone wants their next fucking LeBron James and has nearly no appreciation for all the just genuinely really phenomenal athletes out there and all of that.
Is LeBron James like a phenomenally good athlete, though?
He's like insane. You know, he's like a demigod athlete.
We tried doing this already, and all it did was make only rich people play sports.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, you should have to maintain a blue collar job in order to be an athlete. I think that's how it should be.
What you're telling me is there's going to be a lot of electrical fires in houses constantly, but really good athletes or electricians, quote unquote.
Yeah. No, I always find it really weird that I guess it's just part of the commodity form where it's like you have athletes making trillions of dollars, not trillions of dollars, but you have athletes making just a ridiculous amount of money in like 3 years, which one kind of makes sense because their careers are very short. But even within every sport, the salaries are generally extremely unequal, and everything is inherently volatile due to injuries and all of that.
I used to be worried about that, but then in my head, these people are selling their labor of their amazing skills and abilities, and if they're not getting the money, then the owners who are making way more money out of this will get it.
Yeah, that shouldn't, like, how do I say? It should just not be a commodity form, you know? It should just be people. It should just be people out there doing their sport.
But it's entertainment, no?
I guess.
Like
people should stop sitting at the TV watching sports, and they should just go out and play them.
That's a whole other conversation.
I think, sports entertainment has gone too far. It has gone way too far. Gambling has completely taken over the sports world. It's unavoidable. I was reading an article, I think it was this morning, that I was thinking about covering and decided not to, but I'll bring it up anyways. That was just like young men feel the need to sports gamble just to hang out with their friends. So you can't even just go and hang out and watch sports with the fellas anymore. You have to be gambling now while you do it, and that's insane. I think, sports has just been so over-commodified that I feel like the love of sport is, like, quickly disappearing. there's very little appreciation for sport, but there is so much just like hustle around it.
But it makes sense though, right? Because gambling makes it interactive. Oh, I'm predicting this, I'm predicting that. It actually matters, quote unquote, what happens in the sports league.
You know what else makes sports interactive?
Doing it.
Just go outside, please. Everyone go outside. Do something. Meet anyone.
I think with that message, we can leave off the episode. Go outside.
Gen Z is going to be undateable. Gen Z is going to have no bitches, and the bitches are going to have no.
Are you kidding
mans.
me? Gen Z, have you been on fucking social media? Gen Z is obsessed with going to the gym and looks maxing his shit.
Yeah,
but I don't know if they're getting anywhere.
Gen Z
with
is
it.
going to blow millennials out of the water in terms of eventual attractiveness, right?
Maybe an attractiveness, but what if they like? What can they talk to women? Can these young?
No, they can't.
Yeah,
but
like they can looks max, but it's kind of like working out has always been, where you go to the gym and you're like, oh, I'm gonna look good and get some girls, and then all you do is like go up to 16 guys and be like, yo, your ass is looking juicy today, bro. Like it.
And yet that is them getting out of the house and interacting socially.
It is.
So
it's good. It is good.
I wouldn't be
not
too
convinced that
about
the
it.
looks maxing is going to. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make that transition. You know, too many fucking cameras. No one's going to be hooking up.
Well, with that, yeah,
I think we'll leave it off.
We'll call it.
All right.
We've knocked some of the rust off.